let's write the next Elder Scrolls theme. Okay? First off, we always have to say thank you, Pitbull, to bless us in this trial. And yeah, I thought this would be a fun little project to do, kind of a side thing. You know, I always try to have something to keep my brain fresh and always be challenging myself. And since the next Elder Scrolls is a ways out, and I'm not hired by Bethesda or anything, I thought this would just be a fun idea and challenge to do. I'm sure Enon Zur is going to be doing the next one since he did the temp theme and the teaser from like fucking 7 years ago. And we obviously won't be Jeremy Soule. So yeah, I thought this would be a fun little thing to do and try to do it. So I had some goals going into it, right? Because I have already written the theme, which if you want to hear the full version of the theme, I already have that posted as well, or you can go to the end of this video if you want to hear that before I break it all down. But I had some goals. I had goal number 1, right, was to try to incorporate the sounds of the new land we're in, right, as part of the theme. So all theories point that we're going to be in Hammerfell. So we have things like a coastline with ships. We have the Alakir desert, which is kind of the main inspiration, and kind of wanting to incorporate what that culture would sound like through the traditional fanfare. Now, goal number 2 is be melody focused. It would not be an Elder Scrolls theme if it were very drony and too focused on the rhythm, too focused on just the total soundscape. It needs to have orchestral sounds almost exclusively, and then also be focused on melody, because melody is what drives all of these scores. They're very melodic, and it's one of my favorite things about Elder Scrolls scores. And then goal number 3 is to have some kind of new melody, right? So we're going to have the fanfare, obviously, but every score so far in the Elder Scrolls series since Morrowind has had a theme within it that's exclusive to that land. I call it the land's theme. So in this case, I wrote what I would consider the Alakir desert theme, because, you know, I wanted to also with this score try to get back to the more mysterious elements within kind of Morrowind, because I think this will much more be the stranger in a strange land kind of game versus Oblivion, which I love, but which is very, you know, European medieval fantasy, and then Skyrim, which is very Nordic, you know, fantasy, which this, I think, I would like to see more alien elements. Also, you know, Hammerfell itself has been prone to many wars throughout the eras. We also had the Dwemer there, so I incorporated some percussion elements that you know kind of have to do with mining, which I thought was pretty cool. And then finally, one important thing was I wanted this to be very strings focused. I've always felt the desert, while you could, you know, a lot of the past 2 Elder Scrolls themes have been very, very focused on the horns, and including ESO as well, so I guess the past 3, I think, and then, you know, so I wanted to get away from the horns a little bit, from the brass. I wanted to very much focus on the strings. I see the fluidity of strings to be kind of a nice parallelism to the shifting sands of the Alakir desert, and so I wanted to be string focused, which we haven't seen, you know, the main fanfare be kind of led by the strings since Morrowind, which was, you know, about 2 decades ago now, so over 2 decades ago. So that was kind of the goals going into this. So as we dive in, also one other added goal, let's call this a sub goal, was I wanted to reharmonize the main fanfare to a certain extent, because it has always started on the 1 chord so far, and also with the kind of strangeness that I think will be, you know, in Elder Scrolls 6, in Hammerfell, which I think we'll have now. There might be High Rock too, so we'll have some mystical kind of magical elements, but I think Hammerfell is supposed to be incredibly hostile, so I didn't want to start on the 1 chord in the fanfare. This is also a much slower theme than it has been. The Elder Scrolls themes have been speeding up over the years, and I wanted to bring it back a little bit to kind of the slower pace of Morrowind. Now, we will see in this theme, and the one I've written, that it does speed up over time. It has a double time section that changes time signatures, but to kind of, for the main fanfare, I want it to be, it's actually about 5 BPM slower than the Morrowind theme, to kind of, you know, have synchronicity with it, which I think will be like a trudging through the desert. And as far as the next section, there's also, I wanted to incorporate, because I think there's going to be some seafaring in this game, you know, that people have theorized it, and you don't want to go too pirate, right? but I did want to incorporate some melodic Middle Eastern elements with kind of this seafaring nautical theme for the latter part, and that'll be kind of part of the new Alakir desert kind of style theme. So let's dive in to the intro. We'll just play this intro before the fanfare kicks in, and I'll talk about kind of how I got to it and why I made the choices I did, right? Which is this is the thing with composing and songwriting is you have an unlimited amount of choices, and there's so much you can do. But I wanted to, it's a thing with the start. It's like, how do we introduce it? And how do you introduce this new land? Because I'm not introducing the song as much as I'm introducing this new location. And what does that feel like? And so I wanted to incorporate the strangeness. It was very rooted in this choral part I had written, because I had seen it as kind of, I don't know, with like the desert mirages and the oases and Egyptian mythology, a lot of choral parts. There's I wanted this spiritual element, and especially too if we go to High Rock, there's going to be the magical element with the Bretons. So let's just listen to this intro, and then I'll kind of talk about my choices and why I made the choices I made. There we go. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is I wanted, from a percussion standpoint, to kind of reference Morrowind. It is a different drum rhythm, but it's very, very similar with these big, big percussive drums here. I thought that would be a very fun thing to do with that kind of trotting. We're talking about the march through the desert, all that kind of stuff. And then now the basis, kind of harmonically, was this choral part. This was the first thing I'd written. I sat down on the keyboard, and I wanted to start with this B-flat dominant chord, or I guess we're in the key of D, so it would be an A-sharp dominant chord, but it's kind of a strange arrangement of it, right? We have the third up top, and we're actually doing a fourth inversion, and we have the dominant, that G-sharp down here. And it just sounds, because the D, D is the major third of A-sharp, that we would have this kind of very natural fit into the next chord. So let's hear this choral part real quick. Then we add the fifth of A sharp here, and we have this nice little chromatic line that goes with the chords. And I wanted these very close stacked chords throughout it, because I love a lot of Eric Whitacre's choral arrangements, and also I wanted a lot of suspended chords that are kind of in between at rest and tension. So you hear that here. And we just have our nice 4 chord here, that's a classic thing. You gotta have some of the kind of Dorian element, right, which is a minor 1 chord with a major 4 chord in an Elder Scrolls theme. It's very essential for when the melody comes down to have that kind of Dorian vibe. So I wanted to get away a little bit from what is usually in the fanfare harmonically, but also hit those notes that are essential to its kind of iconic sound. Now, as far as strings go, I don't have to do that. I can just do this. As far as strings go, basically what I did, I just took the notes of the choral chord progression and spread them out across a variety of different stringed instruments, and you can hear that here. Which sounds very nice with the choral part. And then lastly, as far as the harmony goes in that section, I also have a pad going that these is, by the way, I'm using for basically everything here, Spitfire Audio's Labs plugin, and have all of these different great patches. Reason being, it's $13 a month, and yeah, it has some really, really great string samples that don't break the bank. So I really like it. It fits within my budget, which is incredibly small, but that's what we got going on harmonically. So these pad strings just kind of fit very nice with the choral part. Just as a little bit of thickening that out a little bit, just kind of adding some added texture. And then we have kind of these auxiliary kind of added elements here to just have some kind of fun. So we have like this harmonic bow, which is just a single note playing all of the harmonics. Then we have a harp, which is playing some stuff in like D minor and D Dorian, and then I did some like little chromatic out of key stuff here. And then that goes with what I call string madness, which this is a patch in Labs, which basically whatever note you hit, it's the chatter pad. Whatever note you hit, the strings play like a chromatic kind of like little run. So you can hear what these do here. And it goes very nice with the harp. And then I have a little swell here, just some added, a little mysterious element. So that builds out kind of the auxiliary elements of just to add texture to the intro. You can hear that all together. And there we go. And so this is going to be the chord progression that then plays over the fanfare, which I wanted to also not have the double bass come in yet, because I really wanted that to be a part of not only are we hearing the main melody come in, but also kind of a grounding harmonic element of playing all the root notes of these chords in the bass. So let's dive in to when the melody kicks in, and we'll listen through that in totality and then break it down. Okay, there we go. So this is a bit of a different version of the fanfare. I always also wanted to place my kind of own melodic, or not melodic, but harmonic footprint on a traditional Elder Scrolls theme. So we have the same chords going through here. We have a fun little section right here. But so what do we have? So as far as I have a lot of multiple first violin, second violin, and cello all on the main melody. Just to have this really, really big sounding. And now the change I did in the run, this usually hits an A sharp, the minor sixth interval, but I went with the kind of more Dorian major sixth because I wanted to it just had that mystical sands vibe, and I thought it would be a nice change for this version of the theme right here, which then goes with those chords we had written. If we hear all the strings together, but we still always go to that major 4 chord when it goes ba ba da, because I see that as the essential nature of it. And then this with the bass too gives it a lot of context in the string section. Oh. This is a fun little thing you can do. So I just ride on the 4 right here, G, but then although I'm keeping the same chord here harmonically, and then I go, those notes also create a new extension over F, so you can have a little fun. Just some little added motion. That is a good time. As far as percussion over this section, oh yeah, we have that pad going too, but we know how that sounds. So I wanted, we have this same boom, very, very Morrowind. This is just some percussive hits. And then I have what I thought would be very fun because, I was reading a little bit about the lore of Hammerfell and the history of the Dwemer kind of being there and building lots and lots of mines and things underground in Hammerfell. I wanted these metallic hits that kind of sounded almost like I don't know, what the sounds of everyone, picking away at ore in a mine. And then also kind of just some eighth notes going here. So that's kind of what we're working with percussive wise. I thought it would give it a nice kind of new flair. And that's basically everything we got going on in that section until we get to this little part, which is where I really instituted a lot of the Spilly Cave melodic sense, which is I love nothing more than a flat 2 chord, a minor second interval, and then going from that to the major 1 chord. And so that is exactly what we do because I can't get away from it. It's one of my favorite things ever. Doing also the strings hitting that major 7th there is just like I have to. 5 major 7th 5 is like, come on, you're gonna tell me not to do that? I'll cry in a ditch. I'll just go cry in the gutter. Oh yeah, and then we have this little just kind of build it up, and then we get to the second section. So this was kind of the initial part I wrote. I wrote this chord progression, and then I was like, okay, well let's do this. Let's get the fanfare there, and then let's go into the next part, which is we're gonna have a dip in dynamics to kind of get us ready for what I call the Alakir desert theme, which will then lead us back into another rendition of the fanfare, which is more in line with the traditional harmonic sense of the Elder Scrolls series. So I wanted to kind of try to hit the notes of the new and the old, and try to make myself and potentially everyone happy. So let's first just listen through this section before we get into the Alakir desert theme, which is this is kind of like just a bridge. This is a bridge. So, biggest thing I wanted to do, right, was we have this melody. Which is in, basically all the past Elder Scrolls themes, but I want to do something new to get into this Alakir Desert where we go up a half step at the end. To kind of lead into this more piratey, Middle Eastern, deserty, Alakir desert theme. So, what do we got going on here? We have a lot of fun elements. We have more of the string madness, these chromatic. What I really wanted to do is these plucks. Which, again, this march through the desert. And so we have kind of the textural elements with some percussion and then strings. To be the underpinning of this classic theme, but recontextualized for a whole new environment, which is the Alakir Desert. And we also have some automation on these drums, which will end up being kind of the main rhythmic mode we're in for going into the Alakir Desert theme. And this is also where we get our change in time signature, where we change to 4/4, but this is kind of like a kind of like a 6/8 over 4 groove, or like a 12/8 kind of groove, kind of like a shuffle kind of thing going on. So we can kind of still play in 3 over it, utilizing triplets, but have it be in 4/4. And this is where we get to the Alakir Desert theme, which I will play, which will then go back into the fanfare. So let's get into that and listen through this. So this is the most different this gets, where I was like, you know what? I think there needs to be a big leap. There needs to be something that is just not heard before in any kind of Elder Scrolls theme. Because we're trying to institute this very large... I think this is going to be a big shift. Like, I think this game is going to be visually and artistically, from an art design standpoint, very different, with the kind of whole added Redguard, Alakir Desert environment, and I'm hoping it is. And so because of that, I wanted to institute, sadly it would be very fun if I could be working with like a concept art and what the devs are working on, but I just felt it needed, like, it couldn't be the same old song and dance. I needed to institute something that was pulling from different parts of the world musically, and to give this new location a singular identity, which is kind of a mix of the pirate and then also kind of like Arabian Nights kind of style stuff, with also the instrumentation of a classical Elder Scrolls. So trying to jam that all together, and you get a quite different thing from what you're used to, but I tried to kind of pull that back into the original theme and then be working off of a known theme before, so it kind of adds this like bridge section, almost like a pre-chorus that then also gives an identity to the new land. So the main thing I wrote for that was this string part. Oh, let's single these guys out. So we're kind of drifting between, minor to like major, to then we get some harmonic minor stuff where we hit like I think it's the East Indian Byzantine scale, it has the major third, minor 6th, and the major 7th. I forget exactly, but that's... And so that's what we get going on there. And in that, we have this kind of drum riding out, as well as we get a new vocal melody coming in, too, then in the second half of it. Kind of adds some of that mystery, and then we have this big percussive section that is more of that metal clanging, And then finally, to get back to the main theme, I wrote this little melody here, the bam, and that gets right us into the ba 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 ba. And so then, okay, so we have all this. We're gonna go then back to the fanfare, which is going to be harmonically basically the same chords in how it's been in every Elder Scrolls game. And I wanted this to be like, okay, here's some new stuff, it's like, it's a strange land new, and then, okay, damn, we're back. We have that major 4 chord. We're starting on the minor 1 chord, bada bing, bada boom, and we go into this. So let's hear it. And then we'll play this out to the end and kind of talk about, we'll play it out. So yeah, so that's it. I mean, it is just the Elder Scrolls theme right there. This is where we hit the big fanfare, the classic chords. And this is where I just wanted to pay homage to tradition, right? Because I wanted to add some new stuff, add my own kind of harmonic lens, and then also finally, we're just going to give you the meal that you signed up for, which is this. But it's over this, it's hard because this theme and Pirates of the Caribbean are so similar. I had to make sure I wasn't hitting those notes. So the drum rhythm is very different than Pirates of the Caribbean. And then also I made sure that the strings didn't have a percussive nature. They had that classic Elder Scrolls flowing nature. Because I did also still want to incorporate that, like the high C, because I don't know, I think I've seen people theorize about it, and I think there is going to be a sailing element, which I think could be cool. And so I wanted to incorporate that without betraying. I'm trying not to betray the original theme, but and then we have this big slow ending going back with the classic chords. I mean, I'm just hitting the beats, And then the outro is a little bit different. We'll listen to that real quick. And that's it, folks. So that is the Elder Scrolls 6 Spilly edition, the one I wrote. Now, here we have like the classic Elder Scrolls chords, and then I wanted to do these like really close, kind of going back. It's a different chord progression, but going back to like kind of how we introduced the choral parts in the beginning. Oh, that suspended one chord I love with the 11 in there. And then we just have another choral patch doubling that. And then I have this little cello part I wrote. I just played it on my keyboard. And I ended on, maybe this is the most sus thing in all of it, is ending on my favorite melody of all time, which is this kind of suspended arpeggio incorporating the 11th and the 3rd and the 5th, and it's just, we'll listen by itself. Which is just, I just love that melody so much. It's one of my favorite things ever. And I was like, well, if this is going to be a Spill edition, why not? I think also it's so beautiful. And, although we had the danger of the Alakir Desert and then the traditional traditional fanfare, I wanted to end on just some choral beauty and the magic of Tamriel, But yeah, so that is my Elder Scrolls 6 theme. Let me know what you thought, if you thought I did a good job. It was so much fun to do, just as like kind of a quick passion project, a nice little palette cleanse from the stuff I usually compose. And I just had so much fun doing it. It's one of those things where I've always loved this theme, and to get to kind of try to look into what the next game will be, since we kind of have no knowledge other than maybe Hammerfell, and try to give that its own sonic identity. It was a really fun challenge. And so I guess I'll end the video with just playing it through the whole way through. And yeah, thanks for watching. You can listen to my music. You can find me everywhere. I make a lot of stuff. And yeah, have a fucking awesome day. And hopefully this next Elder Scrolls game is good. We'll see what's up. So thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Here is the Tune in Full.